You don't talk. You don't move. You don't even twitch. Back up! Get back there!
And is on this ship.
We've just got to wait it out.
How long are you going to wait, Michael? Till they start throwing bodies off that bridge?
If anybody get killed on the outside, it's because of you.
You just take it easy.
You take it easy!
Oh my God, we're all gonna be killed.
Just be calm.
Ha! Wait, they're coming in the door! Shut up!
Guys, Bizarro has great news. Oh, what is it, Bizarro? There's a sale at JC Penney's. Chico, can you believe that? There's a sale at Penny's.
I can't believe that Penny's is still a thing.
I can't believe it's such a thing that Bizarro made me so excited about it. Hey, Greg, did you hear anything? I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything either.
I saw somebody that looked like that bald guy who wants the meth.
Bryan Cranston?
Tim Misney? No, I think it was the bald guy from You Don't Know Jack. Bizarro. All right, let's play the theme.
Anthology on the bad, short-lived, and forgotten television shows and events in TV history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Well, Charles, your wish has been granted. The blue light means that you get, guess what? What? A second chance. Isn't that nice?
Episode 543, submission 2160. The episode of Airwolf with Bryan Cranston. The episode of Airwolf with Bryan Cranston, titled Desperate Monday, aired on the Columbia Broadcasting System television network on the night of February 8th of 1986.
By Donald P. Belisario.
Well, guys, I have some news. Mike is not here for this or the next episode. But if you'll remember, back in November, we did place a call for some help if we didn't have anybody lined up in case one of us was like sick or had to do something. We had to have like an alternate come out. We vetted a lot of people. And by a lot of people, what do you think it was, Chico?
3
People.
people. And I'll tell you right now, we were and still are thankful for all those interested bodies.
Yes. So we came up with the decision for this guy to be our alternate and figured this would be the perfect time to have him this week. So, alternate, could you please enter and sign in, please? And introduce yourself.
Sure, I'll simulate the pen writing. I'm Aaron Sica, longtime game show fan, and I've known Greg and Dino are for years. Dino and I have, during the trivia phase, we went through many a game night together. Sometimes with some awesome wins and sometimes with some painful losses and glitches.
Not to mention, we did go to a Las Vegas 51s game once upon a time.
Si se puede.
Si se puede.
Was this during the Mets affiliation?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay. What year was this?
17? I think it was 17.
Okay, so this would be after Syndergaard was already on the team. So
yeah.
So who would have been still in the minors for the Mets in 17? Probably Brandon Nimmo, Ahmed Rosario. Can't even think of anybody else. But I'm trying to think. Nimmo would have been what? Called up 18, I think? Or was he already called up by then? Okay, Brandon Nimmo was already on the roster in 2016 for the majors, so he would just been called up. Actually, no. Baseball Reference did say that he played some time in Vegas in 2017. But we're not here to talk about Brandon Nimmo. We're here to talk about one man who is celebrating a nice birthday.
Bryan Cranston, turning 69 this week.
Nice.
The one time where we will not get chastised for using that number, and that's a reaction.
See, Aaron, I appreciate it. You're not judgmental like Mike. Mike will always be judgmental when he says, oh, your guys are sick for saying 69. I think it's nice. Well, it is nice. It's a nice number. Yes.
It's a nice round number.
I don't think a 9 is a nice round number. I think a nice round number is like a 0 and a 5, Chico.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
But we have to talk about Airwolf. Now, Bryan Cranston, like any up-and-coming actor of the day in 1986, was looking for work any way he could. And so he landed this Villain of the Week gig on Airwolf, which was in the midst of its final season on CBS in season 3.
Yes, it would go on to have one more season on the USA Network, but it would be shot in British Columbia, Canada at a fraction of the cost with a fraction of the cast.
And somehow Dick Van Dyke's kid's on the cast.
Not that one, the other one.
The other one. And then I found out that Dick Van Dyke actually made a guest appearance that season on Airwolf in season 4, which is hilarious because I watched that episode also on Roku. By the way, this episode is streaming for free on Roku, which is how I watched it, how Chico watched it, and Aaron watched it.
Yes, and an interesting thing that around this time, Dick Van Dyke would look like the man who plays Michael Goldsmith Briggs III, a.k.a. Archangel, Alex Cord, except without
the patch.
Yes.
And I think this is the second or third time we've talked about Alex Cord on this podcast, because I know we talked about him in American Gladiator ripoffs because he was involved in Wild West Showdown. And then I know we talked about him in another episode, I think.
He played Dylan Hunt in the aborted pilot for Genesis 2.
That's right. I forgot about that, which we covered back in 250, 3 years ago. Man. Well, let's get into the rest of the thing. So our cast, we got Jan Michael Vincent as Hawk, and we got Ernest Borgnine, who we all know likes to do a certain activity.
Yep. He plays Dominic.
Yeah.
And then we have the central member of the Airwolf team in this episode, Caitlin O'Shaughnessy, played by Jean Bruce Scott.
It's kind of funny that that's the same name as the voice actress who plays Tails. Did you notice that?
I did notice that.
Yeah. Let's get into the plot, Chico. What happens in this episode?
Well, we're going to go into a brief synop and then get into the guest cast of note, then take on the bullet point by bullet point synopsis. So the plot of this episode, during Kate's sorority reunion on board the Queen Mary Hotel, which, by the way, still exists and is not cheap to get on, by the way, some men turn up and try to kidnap Italian magnate heiress Barbara Scarelli. The kidnap attempt goes wrong and ends up as a standoff and a hostage situation, and it doesn't look like Airwolf's powerful weaponry can help.
No, because it's a boat. How are you going to get Airwolf to attack a boat?
I've seen helicopters airlift people off of a cruise ship before. But this is no ordinary cruise ship, and this is no ordinary helicopter. This is Airwolf.
Oh, yeah. Aaron, what do you think of Airwolf?
Well, I'll be honest, full tilt, when I lived as a kid in the 80s, wasn't really terribly into adventure shows. Comedies were my main forte. So, honestly, I obviously have heard of it. Never saw Airwolf before I watched the episode. I liked it. I did like it. And to be honest, I will forever be confusing Jan Michael Vincent with John Eric Hexum. I don't know if the hyphenated names or what, but I never can keep them straight. But
They
I like
look
the
similar.
episode.
In your defense, Aaron, they do look similar.
Kind of,
One-
sort of.
To be honest, the reason that I remember one so well is because of his untimely death. But I believe Jan Michael Vincent's still with us.
Yes.
No,
wait,
he's not.
no, that's right.
No, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So going into the guest cast of this episode, we have one Barbara Scarelli, played by Alyssa Davalos, known for 8 episodes of MacGyver and 2 episodes of Diagnosis Murder.
Oh, who was in Diagnosis Murder, Chico?
That would be Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Playing Robert Hollis, a man who dated Barbara Scarelli purely for not her money, but her father's money. Bryan Cranston.
Wait, Walter White was in this episode?
Walter White was in this episode. And then we have, as his little brother J.J. Hollis, Morgan Stevens. Sadly, no longer with us. He's best known for 2 seasons of Fame as Mr. Reardon, 1 season of A Year in the Life as Jack Gardner, and for being confused with Marjo Gortner in this episode. His characteristic mustache and jittery trigger finger did not help.
No.
And then, as Kate and Barbara's old sorority sister Alicia Kincaid, we have Robin Dearden, known for Magnum PI, Breaking Bad, and Woolly Boys. Did a bunch of guest shots there, and was actually, nowadays, she is a voice actress. She did 10 episodes of something called Fantasy Hospital.
And guys, you're not going to believe this. Did you know that Robin Dearden met Bryan Cranston in this episode, and then 3 years later they got married, and they're still married? So this was a real life Luke and Laura situation.
Stockholm Syndrome for 100, Ken. And then we have our third sort of heavy thug, Zach Dax, played by Robert Viharo. Hasn't done much of anything for a while now, but he was in episodes of The Father Dialing Mysteries, The New Mike Hammer, and FBI The Untold Stories. And series regular, semi-regular, I should say, Sergeant Colvetti, played by Don Gordon. Don Gordon no longer with us. He's best known for his roles in The Towering Inferno, Papillon, and The Exorcist 3.
Oh, The Exorcist 3, George C. Scott. Do you know who has a cameo in Exorcist 3, guys?
Who?
It's a famous athlete. Patrick Ewing.
Wow.
Ah. Star of the Hoyas from back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all of the familiar faces and all of the important faces in this episode. So our mission takes us to the coast of Long Beach, California, and the site of the Queen Mary Hotel. Long since in dry dock, it is one of the great ships of the Cunard White Star Line. Of course, descended from one of Greg's favorite ships of all time, Titanic 2. No, just the original Titanic.
Oh, God. Aaron, you should be thankful we did not be with us for Titanic 2. That was a terrible movie. Or the Titanic animated Rappin' Dog movie.
Sounds like the creators are sorry they sunk their profits into those movies.
Hey, Aaron's getting it. So yeah, the Queen Mary Hotel off the coast of Long Beach. It's a very beautiful ship. It's a very beautiful hotel. Caitlin is reuniting with her sorority sisters in the midst of perhaps the worst Loverboy cover band ever.
Oh, this is a crappy cover band. I don't know where they got this band from. They probably like put out an ad because probably in those days in like 1986, you couldn't go on like Craigslist, you couldn't go on Fiverr. You had to like put an actual like newspaper ad, like wanted for this gig on this boat for this sorority reunion.
And certainly couldn't do the AI thing, so that's out. So yeah, we have her little clique, her sub clique, if you will, of sorority sisters. We have one person who was a secretary who is now a boss of what we don't know. All we know is she's a boss, not a secretary. Another who is a deaf, or at least hard of hearing, pregnant lady. So she's about to be a mom. Isn't that nice?
Oh.
And then we have the third, who is the central subject of this story, lady by the name of Barbara Scarelli. She's as beautiful as she is mysterious.
Woo!
Question is, what makes her beautiful? Well, that's obvious, but what makes her mysterious? That we will go into. But somebody like Barbara, hanging out with somebody like Caitlin, it's one of those things that, makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you take a look at those two, it's like, if we were not sorority sisters, we probably would not be friends. But they turned out to be as thick as thieves. They were the best of friends.
The bestest of friends.
Besties. Anyway, a group of men have been tailing Barbara, led by Robert Bobby Hollis. They arrive at the dock, sneak on the boat to kidnap Barbara. Why is that?
Why would they do that?
No idea. But I guess we'll find out in due course. But yeah, Robert Bobby Hollis is aided by his brother JJ and their friend Zach. Think Marjo Gortner's character in Earthquake. After toasting their good fortune, the ladies enjoy a drink while JJ delivers.
Well, hold on a second. Delivers a package. But, okay, I'm watching this as it's going on, and he comes up with a package, and he says to the sorority that these are flowers. Those are not flowers the way that box is shaped. Aaron,
Right.
did you have the same reaction as me?
Yes, exactly. I looked at that long box and thought, there's no way those are flowers in that box. Had the same reaction.
I took one look at that box and said, there's a gun in that box.
Yep.
Now, I don't think we've ever seen what was in that box, though.
Oh, yeah, he didn't even take what was in the box. So for all you know, there could have actually been flowers in the box.
Or it could have just been a box.
It could have just been an empty box.
Or it could have been trade that for curtain. Oh, sorry, wrong show.
Oh, no. That's, no.
It could have been a clunk. We don't know.
It could have just been a pretty box. But yeah, Caitlin wants to go with Barbara because the box came from a mysterious stranger that wants to meet Barbara right away by herself.
What? Why would that happen? Why would she want to meet somebody by herself?
I don't know, but if Dare taught me anything, it's that there's strength in numbers. You never go to a strange place with a strange person by yourself. That's right, I made a Dare reference. By the way, did we mention, and this is a very minor point, but Barbara is playing cat and mouse with her bodyguard being sent from her father, who is an Italian entrepreneur and magnate of some sort, whose interests line up with America's interests at that point. Mr. Scarelli is a very rich, very powerful Italian industrialist Also a good friend of the United States, and he's got a lot of influence with the majority members of the new government recently seated in Italy. This according to Cavelli. Of course, already there on site, overseeing the operation, because Cavelli is there, is Archangel. And as you know, Archangel is the one who sends Hawk and company to the farthest reaches of the world in Airwolf to protect America. Another person on this boat is her bodyguard, Barbara's bodyguard, who they're constantly playing cat and mouse with. Turns out, while Barbara is meeting the person who sent her the flowers, we reveal one of the heavies with a gun saying, "Keep moving and don't talk."
Now, I should note that there was like this big, like, what do you say, like a gift shop on this boat during this scene.
Yes.
And there was like this photo album of the Queen. So I'm wondering, I hope that that was like the Panini sticker album of the royal family, because that was actually a thing at this time. Panini actually released a sticker album of the royal family. Could you imagine back in 1985 getting like those sweet Prince William stickers? You'd probably be rich now in 2025.
Probably. Anyway, JJ, who's behind Zach and Barbara, because he gets really, really nervous, pulls out his Uzi and fires up to what turns out to be Barbara's bodyguard.
Oh, yeah, he kills him. And he's like, oh, crap, now I'm going to go to jail. I killed the bodyguard.
So it's back inside the ship, back inside the main ballroom. And here comes Colvetti with the police and Archangel trying to make some sort of sense of things. So why is Archangel here? Turns out because of Barbara Scarelli.
Oh.
Of course, back in the ballroom, JJ completely spazzes out as he hears sirens in the distance. Police, SWAT team, they're gonna kill us. They're gonna blow our brains all over the walls. And Robert's like, will you shut up?
Yeah, I mean, come on. This is not going to be the worst thing that happens to Bryan Cranston over the years, let me tell you.
Try being married to Jane Kismerick. Oh, sorry.
Or for that matter, controlling Ted Mosby when he designs something. Isn't that right, Charles Robinson?
That's a penis.
Hold on. Maybe next year for the 70th birthday of Bryan Cranston, we can do that episode.
Yeah. And also the 5 episodes of Raising Miranda, which he plays a crazy uncle.
I don't even remember Raising Miranda.
Nobody does. All I know is Steve Vinovich is in it.
I remember it, but I didn't watch it, and apparently nobody else did either, which is why it's had such a short shelf life.
So, of course, because Archangel's now involved, it's time to bring in the Airwolf team, which at this point is Hawk and Dominic, because Caitlin's still on the boat. It's up to Archangel to tell them, and as soon as they know, it's like, okay, we're a part of this now. Archangel says, there are no moves we can make. We've got to wait it out. Hawk is like, how long are you going to wait? Until they start throwing bodies off of the ship? And Dominic's like, I'm not going to wait that long. Remember, Archangel knows what he's doing. Tactical situation. Moves and counter moves. Stay in control. Sergeant Colvetti, meanwhile, is on the phone with Robert, trying to negotiate a release of the hostages. And, of course, he wants what every hostage taker wants. Free passage to LAX, a fully fueled private jet, and $10 million in a Swiss bank account.
Sure.
It's like, get all of those to me. I will release all of the hostages except one. And Robert's like, do what I say. You'll be all right. JJ is still a basket case. So now the police, Colvetti, and the Airwolf team have to come together and think of a plan to release all of the hostages, including Barbara Scarelli and Kate, without killing anybody. Archangel says, I know people like you. You want to talk to somebody in Washington. I can make it happen. You can call me Archangel. Those things you asked for, that's going to take some time. Of course, Robert doesn't want to hear that. So Archangel sends Hawk on board the ship to retrieve Barbara. Well, in comes the Zebra Squad. And while all of that's going on, we have a moment of exposition where Barbara explains why she and Caitlin are so close. Barbara's like, do you remember when we were in school together? I wanted to be like you. And Caitlin's like, are you kidding me? And Barbara's like, no, I'm not kidding you. You were the one who cared. You were the one who honestly really cared about people, about things, about life. And Caitlin's like, Barbara, you cared. You wanted to do something with your life. You want to help people. I know you care. And Barbara's like, well, if I care, then why am I the only person I care about at the moment? How can I get out of here? How can I escape? And Caitlin's like, because you've been running all your life. It's not easy growing up. When I was a kid, I used to dream there was wild animals running around underneath my bed. So you know what I did? I sawed off the legs of my bed. My dad gave me the greatest gift of all. He told me I had to solve the problem for myself. So, in the air, Dominic is piloting Airwolf, while a UH-1 is carrying Hawk and Colvetti. Barbara and Robert, meanwhile, are having another moment of exposition, where Robert reveals that he is really only dating Barbara not for her money, but her dad's money. He's all, a few years ago, Zach and I hooked up flying a load of dope out of Colombia. We were overloaded, taking off, and crashed, and we were caught, sent to a Bogota prison. That was a real hellhole, but I promised myself a lot of things there, and we were lucky. We managed to escape. Barbara, sometimes people start off playing roles, and in the end, they gotta play them out. Alicia is just hoping and praying that all of this is just one bad dream and she just wants to be left alone. She tells Caitlin that, I wish to God I'd never known you. This is going to become a running bit because Alicia is about as panicky as JJ. Robert, having exhausted all of his contact with Archangel, meets Hawk, who introduces himself as a pilot. Because, he's landed the helicopter that he's going to get all of his hostages into.
And Robert's like, you're a cop, right? Like, seriously, you're a cop, right?
I'm not a cop. I'm a pilot. I'm getting paid for this. I'm expecting a nice tip, by the way. So, everybody's getting off the ship and into the helicopter. Alicia, much like Mr. T before her, starts to panic. She's afraid to fly. She ain't getting in no blankety-blank plane.
Even if her future husband's on this plane.
So, Robert and Hawk are in the air, flying to a hangar, although the orders are to take Robert to LAX. Robert's like, turn off your transponder, hang a right turn. I want to get into this hangar. And Hawk's like, our orders are taking you to LAX. So he's like, So do it now. I'm not a chopper pilot, but I'm good enough to get this thing down on the ground in a controlled crash, and I guarantee you, you won't walk away from it. Does he know who?
Yeah, he's dealing with Jan Michael Vincent, for crying out loud. Like, Aaron, do you believe a single word that Bryan Cranston said here, that he would not survive the crash?
I didn't think he would, but I guess if we wouldn't have a show if the helicopter crashed.
Wait a couple more episodes before they go to USA Network and then get back to me.
The USA Network, even though it was filmed in Canada, I never quite understood that.
No. Well, a lot of stuff in USA Network that they aired back then. I think the only American thing that was on USA Network, ironically, was probably like WWF. That was it.
Yep. I'm talking about Counter-Strike, your Chain Reactions, your Jackpots. All that stuff was Canadian. And we loved it. We ate all of it up. Talk about your Mike Darrows, your Jeff Edwards, your Simon McCorkadales. That's right, Simon McCorkadale.
Yeah, show some respect for Manimal.
So the worst possible thing that could happen actually does. Alicia wakes up and finds out that she's in the air.
Oh no.
Yeah. She starts to panic, and JJ aims his gun right at her head like, I told you to be quiet. He's about to fire, and Caitlin's like, nope. Lifts his arm up, hits the hull. All of a sudden, smoke everywhere. We have to land this bird. And they land at an airport next to what looks to be a hangar. Robert lets everybody out except for his gang and Hawk, because he's about to fight Hawk. Hawk's like, Dom, you need to stop that plane. Don't let it get off the ground. So Airwolf and the police corner the plane with Robert in the cockpit. Robert's about to take off. Here comes the police on one end. Here comes the airport on another. And all of a sudden it's like, the jig is up.
All right, let's just go into that other hangar right over there.
There you go. All of a sudden, Robert needs to start thinking of another plan, and JJ is there, and all of a sudden, being chased by Hawk, mind you. Everybody's chased by Hawk. Hawk finally arrives and says, hear that? Sirens. It's over. Give yourselves up. JJ takes his pew-pew and pew-pews himself.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the other guy who escaped is caught by Dom, correct?
Correct.
And then we get like this touching scene at the end.
With Bobby next to his brother's still warm body.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? This scene is so touching that I will just play the whole clip right here in the editing.
He's my brother. He's my brother. Never make it in prison, would you? You understand? I understand.
He's a brother.
Oh man, how did Cranston not win a Best Guest Spot Emmy for this?
That was what we call the money shot. His brother couldn't take one lousy hostage situation. What makes you think he's gonna survive in jail?
Oh no, they're gonna probably beat him up in the prison. He's not gonna survive one day in prison. So he probably had the bright idea. He's like, I'm just gonna end this right now. I don't want. No.
Yeah, I think guys like JJ are one step above chomos. They'd eat him alive. So yeah, Hawk gets it. It's like, I get it. He's your brother. You were just looking after your brother. I still gotta take you in, but yeah, I totally get what you're doing here. And that's the episode.
Yep. So, Aaron, what overall did you think of the episode?
Well, honestly, I like episodes of shows with hostage situations. Don't ask me why. They almost always go south, obviously, or else we wouldn't be able to fill a half an hour or a two-part special in the case of Different Strokes.
Aaron, now you've made me try to think, oh yeah, that was certainly a hostage situation with Dudley in the bike shop before the jump. That definitely was.
There were no guns and, well, one gun, I guess, but I mean, one adult gun. But no, the Different Strokes one was full tilt. I had a fear of going in banks for a little while as a kid after this because I was so afraid it would get held up. But it was the one where Arnold gets out money from the bank to try to impress Tootie, and he's throwing a fit over his free toaster, and then the bank gets held up.
Oh.
And I don't know if this was ever talked about in the podcast, but there is a game show host appearance in this two-part episode.
Oh, who is it?
Playing a reporter. Dino, do you know?
Oh gosh, I do not know. I don't remember that episode.
And he's actually he plays a really stupid news reporter, but it's Jeff Edwards.
It sounds like David Ruprecht.
But it's Jeff Edwards. But yeah, so the episode, like I said, I've never seen an episode of Airwolf before, but it held my interest. I enjoyed the episode. Thought the end was touching. Hawk got a little emotional, it looked like, at the end, too.
That's because he got what Robert was trying to say about his brother. Because remember, Hawk's whole raison d'guerre is to find the people who drove his brother St. John either into the ground or into the underground, if you know what I'm saying.
Ah, so there's an underlying arc in the show. I may have to go back and watch more of it.
Yeah.
But you really can't go wrong with anything from Donald Belisario.
No.
So, what do we have to say about this episode? Well, you got Bryan Cranston. You got Airwolf.
You got a hostage situation.
Yeah.
You got the Queen Mary.
And you get an amazing thing on TV. Actually, before we sign off for this episode, I actually got two things to mention. This episode aired on a Saturday night on February 8th, 1986. Now, I find it funny because when I was going through the Roku stuff for Airwolf, I noticed the previous episode was from January 25th, 1986. It's listed on Roku. So I figured, well, given, as you obviously, if you listen to the podcast and having listened to episode 455 Melba, I figured given what happened the week of what was supposed to be the next episode on February 1st, that they just preempted it. But it turns out that no, they actually did air an episode on Saturday, February 1st. It's just not on Roku for whatever reason. And I don't know why.
I'm going to do some very quick research here to see if I can guess maybe why it wasn't shown. February 8th, right?
Yeah.
Or February 1st, rather, is the one that wasn't shown.
No, well, it was shown on February 1st. It's just not listed on Roku.
Oh, right, on Roku, right.
I don't know if it's a content problem with the episode or what. They don't have
music rights, maybe. Maybe there was a song that was in it they couldn't clear. That's my only guess.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. I think it could be music rights because I know that's the case with like certain episodes of season 2 of Wise Guy that they can't air on streaming because of music rights. But I do have the ratings for this episode. It did air on Saturday, February 8th, 1986, as I mentioned. It did a 13.4 in the ratings. Opposite it, at 8 and 8:30 on ABC, you had the Red Fox Show. Yeah, there was a second version of the Red Fox Show. That wasn't obviously the variety show that we mentioned. Because I know we covered the original Red Fox Show, Chico, about 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was one of the shows we did as we went into the Sanford-verse.
Wiki says this version of the Red Fox Show premiered on January 18th of 86 and lasted to April 19th of 1986. But funny enough, also on this show was Barry Van Dyke, who we earlier mentioned because he was in the final season of this very show, Airwolf, when it went to USA Network. And then we had Benson at 8:30, so both episodes did a 10.5. And then on NBC, you have Give Me a Break at 8 o'clock, which did a 15.4, and The Facts of Life, which did a 17.6. Now, there was a movie that followed Airwolf. Do you want to know what that movie was that followed it at 9 o'clock?
Go ahead.
Blade Runner.
Fit like a glove outside of Airwolf, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. 12.3 it did, opposite The Love Boat on ABC, which did a 14.7. And at 9 o'clock on NBC, The Golden Girls did a 21.5. 227 did a 19.4, and Hunter did a 14.6.
Saturday Night belonged to NBC back in 1986, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think SNL, yeah, this is the night that Ron Reagan Jr. hosted SNL, because it says it right here on TV Tango at 11:30, shows outside of primetime. Yeah. I figured February 8th was like something I remember covering in the past. So, yeah, covered that in the 85-86 season of SNL about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
The February 1st episode, Missing from Roku, I found a very curious guest star on that should ring a bell. I don't know if he was ever talked about on the podcast, but Stephen Shortridge guest starred on the episode.
Okay. I think this is the first time we've ever mentioned him on this podcast.
Probably won't be the last, though.
So he is the Barbarino replacement on the last season of Welcome Back, Kotter.
We did talk about that, though. About shows that lasted one season too long. Also, this show.
Thought that was interesting.
Now, guys, I have a game of eBay Price is Right to play.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh.
Aaron, are you excited to play eBay Price is Right?
I am very excited.
All right. I'm going to hit the music right now. You guys are going to be bidding on a brand new factory seal WADA 9.6 graded copy of Airwolf on the NES. And I'm sending it in the chat right now.
Pro, it is in near mint condition. Con, it is a game from Acclaim.
Yeah, so you take the good and the bad, I guess.
Yes.
All right, so there is a minimum bid on this. So the minimum bid is going to be $250. So you cannot go any lower than $250 on this. So, Aaron, because you're the guest, I'm going to start the bidding with you.
All right. Well, piggybacking as to what Chico said, considering what they did to Back to the Future, I have no
You're thinking of LJN.
LJN, oh my god.
Well, hold on. LJN did buy Acclaim, or Acclaim bought LJN, I think, or the other way around. So it is part of the Acclaim family.
But considering what they did to that game off wonderful movies, I'm going to say, just based on the name value alone, 300.
Chico.
The fact that it is in near mint helps it. I don't think any Gen Pop is going to give a toss whether or not Acclaim makes it. So I'm gonna go with $375.
The price. $637.
I knew it.
49 cents.
Wow.
I knew it. Gen Pop does not give a rip that Acclaim completely killed the license.
Okay. Do you want to know how much this originally was? Because this is 15% off. Do you want the original price of this?
15 for what is it? What is it?
$749.99.
Yo, if you have enough money to swing that, God bless you, okay?
Look, you're saving $100. So, I mean, this day and age, I mean, if you have enough money to spend $600 on a graded NES game, well, you probably have some deep psychological issues.
You could use the $100 to buy a Hyperkin to play it on.
I'm surprised. I was as much an NES kid as the next, and I have no recollection of this game. But it looks like there was an arcade game, which I also don't remember. And the NES was not a port of the arcade game. This was a completely different game. Looks like 20 missions in this game.
There was also a separate Famicom game of Airwolf.
But I think there's also a Mega Drive version of Airwolf that was only in Japan too. Because I've seen somebody sell like a repro cartridge that it can work in like a North American Genesis. Or maybe it was the Super Famicom.
I know they had a Super Airwolf, so it might have been Super Famicom.
I mean, just like Super Airwolf. No, it was for the Sega Mega Drive, exclusively on that. So that's weird. There was a Sega Mega Drive game with the title Super, and it was never ported to the Super Famicom.
Missed opportunity.
And in the US, it was released as Crossfire, but it was stripped of the Airwolf license and theme song.
Oh, damn it.
And the Famicom one, probably the same old story. Oh, the US players, it's too hard for them. We're not going to release it.
The old Howard Phillips Super Mario 2 Japan excuse.
Yep.
You can find us at our website, itwasthingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time. Well, Chico, that's one episode down to celebrate the nice birthday for Bryan Cranston. But in our next episode, we're going to have tennis, we're going to have some murder, and we're going to have Sarah Connor.
But there's going to be no chopper to get to. We already did that today.
Oh, I see what you did, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was in the
Terminator.
Terminator. But he didn't say get to the chopper in Terminator.
No, he said it in Predator. So, murder, tennis, Sarah Connor, and would you believe it? Bryan Cranston is somehow involved in all of this.
Well, you're going to find out how he's involved in the next episode of It Was a Thing on TV. I'm Greg. That was Chico. And that's Aaron. And Aaron's going to be here for the next episode, too.
Yes, I can't wait to dive in.
So until that next episode, thanks so much for listening. Please be kind to one another, and we will see you for the next one.
Wow!
I did want to ask you a personal question. I've talked to you several times before. We've always had a wonderful time. At least I have. You seem annoyed most of the time.
Yeah. You have had a wonderful time.
I've had a wonderful time talking to you.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed talking to you. You always seem, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
You have been married 32 years, and just an incredible marriage, especially in this business of show.
Well, it's collective. I've been married 5 times. So I still look at it as a success.
If you look at it that way, Mickey Rooney was married for 160 years. How did you and your wife meet?
We met, and we were guest stars. My wife, Robin Dearden, was an actor, and she's retired now. But we met doing a show called Airwolf.
Oh, my God.
Do you remember this show?
Yes, I remember Airwolf.
Very, very bad show, but with a great thumping theme song. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you got excited about the show, and then slowly as the show rolled out, it's like, you started losing interest.
And so, which means it only ran for like 7 seasons.
Yeah, it did incredibly well. And my wife was the victim of the week, and I was the bad guy of the week, and I literally held her captive by gunpoint. And
what a weird way to meet, because I met my wife on a remote 20 years ago, shooting a remote, which I think
by
is
gunpoint?
Strange. Again, that was how I used to do remotes. The only way I could get anyone to talk to me was I would wave a gun around and make people. No, I didn't do. But what I'm saying, yours is so much stranger that you met your wife. Your first introduction to her was you holding her hostage with a fake gun.
Well, it's also very sexy, I think. So it's like she thought I was very dangerous. It was like, ooh.
Did you guys have that chemistry right away?
We did. And you know why I think we've been married for so long? Is because at that time, that's 35 years ago now. 35 years ago, I had a girlfriend, she had a boyfriend, so we didn't have the need to make a move. We were able to play and flirt, and yet to not have anything go any further than that. So we were able to really be ourselves and say, God, she's really pretty and funny, and I really like
I had that same thing with my wife. When we met, I was very asexual. And so there was no threat that I would, you know what I mean? And then I just eventually sort of evolved in this other direction.
Into like, it's like a battery. Now you're AA or AAA sexual. Yeah, it's one of those.
You know, I remember, it's so funny that you met on Airwolf, because I remember that theme so well, the opening of that show. I do, and basically, I hate to admit this, but it's how I start most of my mornings, is I play the Airwolf theme. I think we should take a look right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the opening to Airwolf. Different time in television.
It is. when you know they spent a fortune on just the theme song and the visuals. This was 7 minutes of the show.
I know. You know, it's incredible watching this now. You realize
it goes on for another 6.5 minutes.
I know. First of all, let's be clear to our viewers. That is, for anyone, younger people cannot believe how long show openings used to be. Yeah. And what happened is they've now completely gone away. There's a quick opening. Yeah, you know, and then you're right into it. That is a small fraction of the opening of that show. You haven't even gotten to, and it's unbelievable. Chips, the opening to Chips, I clocked it once at 45 minutes.
The actual story is only 6.5 minutes after that, and then they wrap it up. What's like the Hawaii Five-0 was also another big driving, emotionally, you know, exciting Hawaii experience.
Yes.
And wow.
No, it tells you how much television has changed, that there used to just be there were 3 networks, there was a limited amount of product. You would watch a long opening even if it wasn't great, because what else are you going to do? It's the 70s or the early 80s. What do you got to do, pal?
And I heard the concept of having the big sound, the big music intro, was because in commercial television broadcast, people would leave the TV on, go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen, and they would hear that music start to play. And it was like a siren call. They'd come back in, oh, the show's starting, and that would draw their attention back to it. That's when we were locked into a time and a day. We had to watch our show.
Yeah. Now it's,
Can you imagine?
No, but I mean, it is so different now. I try to explain this to my children, and I sound like my dad talking about the Great Depression when I was growing up. And I was like, who cares? And he'd say, no, I'm telling you, we'd listen to a radio and it had a curved top. Who cares? Now I'm telling them, you had to line up and you had to watch that show when it came on or you'd miss out, buddy boy. They don't care.
You.
Yeah, I don't know why I talk that way.